Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into something, well, incredibly fundamental, yet still so mysterious: time itself.
That's right. We're looking at Time for a Book by Gonzalo Gili. It's a really interesting take, personal, but also universal.
And it gets you thinking about this force that's just always there.
It definitely invites us to reconsider what we think we know, to really ask ourselves if the time we take for granted is maybe just something we've made up.
The figment of our imagination. That's quite a starting point. Okay, let's dive in. We talk about days, years. Those seem pretty solid, right? Tied to the Earth spinning, going around the sun.
Sure, the day and the year have clear astronomical anchors. Day is rotation, year is orbit.
But then the book asks, okay, what about hours, minutes, seconds? Where do they come from? They don't really map onto anything cosmic in the same way, do they?
No, not directly. And that's the author's point when he calls them just figments of our imagination. He digs into the history a bit.
Like the Egyptians.
Exactly. The hour system, for example, seems to trace back to them. Apparently, they just, well, liked grouping numbers in 12s.
12s? Any idea why?
Possibly inspired by the 12 lunar cycles they observed in a year. Their first time-telling devices, sundials, divided the path of the shadow into 12 parts for the daytime.
Ah, okay, so 12 hours for the day.
Right. And then, eventually, they kind of extended that idea to the night, maybe using water clocks or star charts. Around 1500 BCE, this gives us the 24-hour day we still use.
So it's really a human construct, a system we invented to measure things out.
Precisely. A metric we defined based on our observations and, well, our preference for certain numbers.
Okay, so if our way of measuring time is so human-centric, what does that mean when we look outside ourselves? How does the book explore time for other beings?
That's where it gets really fascinating, the relativity of it all. The book uses this great comparison. Think about a mayfly.
Right, they live for about a day, don't they?
Just about 24 hours, yeah. Now, compare that to something like a Patagonian cypress tree.
Which lives for?
Thousands of years. Over 3,000 years, potentially.
Oh.
So for that cypress tree, what use is a second? It's such an incredibly tiny fraction of its existing, it's almost meaningless.
Yeah, I see that.
And then flip it. For the mayfly, whose entire life unfolds in what we call a day, maybe our second is actually quite a long time relative to its experience.
Huh. So the value, the meaning of a unit of time, it's completely relative to the observer's lifespan and, I guess, their biology.
Exactly. It really drives home how subjective time can be.
And this subjectivity, it doesn't just apply across species, does it?
Yeah.
The book argues our own senses shape our experience of time, too.
Absolutely. Our perception itself isn't a perfect recording. Think about a tiny jumping spider.
Okay.
To us, it looks like it moves in these little, almost instantaneous jumps, right? It's here, then suddenly it's over there.
Yeah, like teleporting tiny distances.
But there's no magic. It's just moving faster than our visual system can fully process. Our eyes literally can't keep up with the fine details of its movement.
So our eyes are kind of filtering reality. We're smoothing it out.
In a way, yes. They're tricking us. It's very similar to how movies work.
Ah, right. A bunch of still pictures shown really fast.
Exactly. Still images, frames, flashed in rapid succession. Our eyes and brain blend them together, interpreting those rapid changes as smooth, continuous motion.
So our feeling of a smooth flowing now is actually an interpretation built by our biology. It's not raw data.
Precisely. Our experience of time is really made to measure, shaped by our senses and biological limits. It kind of undermines the idea of a single objective flow of time that everyone experiences identically.
Which leads to this idea in the book called the now singularity. What's that about?
It's this concept of the infinitesimally small moment where our external senses, sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, are actually receiving raw input from the world.
Like the exact razor's edge of the present.
Kind of, yeah. It's
Yeah.
that ultimate present moment before our brain starts processing, interpreting, filtering, comparing it to memories, all that stuff, the direct interface between external reality and us.
And the book suggests we're usually not even consciously aware of that raw input, right? Our mind is sort of processing it in the background unless something unusual grabs our attention.
That seems to be the case. Most of the time, our conscious mind is dealing with the results of that processing, not the raw feed itself.
So this now singularity, it's where, as the book puts it, the material flow meets the immaterial flow. Can you unpack that?
Sure. The material flow is that raw sensory data coming in from the outside world. It's happening now, moving from what will be after this moment to what came before it.
Okay, the stream of reality.
Right. And the immaterial flow is our internal world, our thoughts, memories, imagination. This flows from our before, our past experiences and learned knowledge toward us after, how we understand the present and anticipate or plan for the future.
And the now is where those two streams intersect, where raw data meets interpretation and memory.
Exactly. And according to the book, that intersection, that now, is crucial. It's where we make the decisions that determine survival or just navigate everyday life.
The book uses some interesting examples to explore this before and after. What if you didn't have it before?
Yeah, imagine no memory storage, no ability to learn from the past. Every single now would be brand new, completely disconnected from any previous moment.
Like the movie Memento.
Precisely. The protagonist can't form new memories, so he's constantly trying to piece together his recent past using notes and photos. It really shows how vital our before, our memory is, for making any sense of the after, the future.
And what about the other way around? No after, at least in terms of visualizing it. It mentions aphantasia.
Right. Aphantasia is the condition where people can't voluntarily create mental images. They can't picture things in their mind's eye.
So they can't visualize future scenarios.
Not in a pictorial way, no. But interestingly, the book notes a potential upside some people with aphantasia report.
Which is,
They feel they might live more fully in the now because they aren't constantly distracted by mental images of what might happen next. And knowing they can't easily replay moments visually later, they might cherish the actual experience more as it happens.
that's fascinating. It underlines again how personal time is and how our memory, our before, isn't just a recording, it's filtered,
Right.
it's shaped by us.
Absolutely. Our minds are not cameras just recording objective reality.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. The book suggests that we, especially in recent history, have been waging a kind of war against time. Trying to stretch it, compress it, beat it.
Yeah, a violent and bloody confrontation against time, as it puts it. A bit dramatic, maybe, but the point is we constantly strive to overcome its limitations.
Using our weapons.
Mainly three: transportation, communication, and computing.
Right. Transportation lets us cover distance faster, effectively shrinking travel time.
Communication has become almost instantaneous across the globe.
And computing gives us incredible processing power for tasks that used to take ages or were impossible.
And when you combine them, like in a smartphone, well, the effect is huge. Instant information, constant connection, the ability to do almost anything, anywhere, anytime.
But this constant acceleration, this war, it has costs, doesn't it? Like the idea of multitasking.
Yes, the book argues multitasking is largely an illusion. We feel like we're doing several things at once, but mostly our brain is just switching between tasks really, really quickly.
Like juggling. You're only touching one ball at a time.
Kind of like that, yeah. And each switch, each context change, has a small penalty. It takes mental effort. It takes a fraction of a second. So constantly switching isn't actually efficient. Studies show it can increase errors and stress.
Our brains aren't really built for parallel processing like a computer. We're more linear.
It seems that way. And for deep learning, for really understanding something, we need focused attention over time.
You can't learn to play the piano by switching tasks every 2 seconds.
Exactly. Permanent task switching prevents the kind of sustained focus needed to build strong neural connections for complex skills and deep memory. You need attention, repetition, dedicated time.
Which is a stark contrast to how technology, like AI, can learn. The book mentions AlphaGo Zero.
Right, the AI that taught itself the game Go. In just 40 days of self-play, it achieved a skill level far beyond any human grandmaster.
Its ELO rating was over 5,000. Compared to humans, around 2,800.
Yeah, an unbelievable leap in learning speed, which raises big questions, you know. How does this machine superlearning affect us? Can humans speed up their own learning?
Well, we do try, don't we? Listening to podcasts or lectures sped up.
Sure. You can often understand speech at 1.25x or 1.5x speed pretty easily. Even 2x is possible, though it takes a lot more concentration. Same with speed reading techniques.
But there's a trade-off, isn't there? The book mentions the world champion speed reader finishing Harry Potter in 47 minutes.
Yeah, at over 4,000 words per minute. But the point is, even if we can process information faster, does it overload us? Does it increase stress? Is comprehension as deep? More information crammed into the same time isn't always better for the human mind.
So while technology races ahead, we're still fundamentally bound by our biology, our internal clocks.
Definitely. The book talks about our circadian rhythms, that roughly 24-hour cycle our bodies naturally fall into.
The one that gets messed up by jet lag.
Exactly. When we suddenly shift our light exposure and activity schedules, our internal clock gets out of sync with the external environment. It takes time to readjust.
And it even suggests we have some conscious control, like setting ourselves to wake up at a specific time.
There's evidence for that. A study showed people's bodies start releasing stress hormones to prepare for waking before their alarm is even set to go off, suggesting our internal clock can anticipate a specific intended time.
That's pretty amazing. Our mind's constructing time, even anticipating it. What about under stress? That feeling of slow motion.
Ah, yes, the classic time slowing down during a traumatic event or an accident.
The book mentions an experiment, dropping people.
Yeah, a controlled free fall from about 30 meters to induce that stress. And participants consistently reported afterwards that the fall seemed longer than it actually was.
So time did slow down for them.
Well, not exactly. Their perception during the fall wasn't necessarily faster. The leading explanation is that the time stretching effect happens during recall, when they remember the event.
How does that work?
The idea is our brain gauges duration partly by the amount of information processed or encoded. A stressful, novel event packs in a lot more detail and emotional significance. So when we recall it, there's more data to replay, making it feel longer in retrospect.
So we edit the memory to feel like slow motion. Wow.
It's another powerful example of how our minds actively construct our experience of time.
In this personal construction of time, it affects everything, right? Our choices, our relationships.
Absolutely. The book touches on our purpose, how we spend our time, especially with others. It cites data, like from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Showing how time spent alone increases as we age.
Dramatically, yes, especially after our 30s or 40s. By age 80, a large portion of the day is spent alone, while time with friends, even family, tends to decrease over the lifespan.
Which ties back to the technology point. We've gained free time, haven't we? Working hours have decreased over the last century or so in many places.
Yes, economist Max Roser's work shows that clearly. In the UK, for instance, average weekly hours dropped significantly between 1870 and 2000.
So the big question the book implies is, what are we doing with that extra time?
And the data suggests a lot of it goes into screens. TV, streaming, social media, games. Which leads to a crucial choice for you, for all of us. Do we invest that time primarily in mediated experiences, maybe with machines, or do we prioritize nourishing those face-to-face multisensory connections with other people?
That's a really pointed question for modern life. The author even shares a personal story, doesn't he?
Hmm.
About leaving a job.
He does. He talks about leaving a long-term job with nothing else lined up, purely based on a strong internal feeling and intuition in the now. Looking back, his rational self isn't sure he'd make the same choice, but the feeling at the time was undeniable.
And the mixtapes.
Ah, yeah, finding old cassette tapes from his youth. As he digitized them, the memory, the sensation of making those tapes waiting for the radio DJ, the effort involved instantly connected his past self from 37 years ago to his present self. The time gap just vanished in that moment of sensory recall.
It's a beautiful illustration of how subjective time can feel, how memory can bridge those years.
It really brings it all together, doesn't it? Our entire experience of time is so deeply personal, so subjective. It's tied completely to our human context, our senses, our biology. Those external senses are only truly live in that fleeting, tiny moment we call now.
Which leaves us with a final thought to ponder. What if your senses work differently? What if you perceive time at a much faster or much slower rate? How different would your now feel? How much more or less information would flood your consciousness in any given moment?